The Israeli army has concluded there is a high probability that the renowned Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Aqla was mistakenly killed by one of its soldiers. Ms. Abu Aqla was shot in the head during an Israeli military raid in the occupied West Bank in May. Eyewitnesses and Palestinian officials reported that she was shot by Israeli troops, a finding that was backed up by the United Nations and a number of investigations by the media. We're going to speak live to our correspondent, Tom Bateman, who joins us from Jerusalem. Tom, they say there's a high probability. Will there now be a process to ascertain categorically whether it was one of Israel's own soldiers?
Well, no, not if the Israeli army is left to its own devices, because they have effectively ended their probe, and they've said that, as well as their belief now that there was a high probability one of their soldiers fired the fatal shot, that they have passed the file to their Judge Advocate General, the top legal officer in the army, and she has said that she will not open a criminal investigation, so things end there. But that is not going to satisfy, and it hasn't satisfied the family of Shireen Abu Aqla, who say that the Israeli army are obscuring the truth, in their words. They say they're not surprised by this, but are extremely hurt by it. And that is why they have been putting pressure on the US administration, because she had dual US nationality, to try and get the Israelis to do more to hold to account the soldier that was behind what happened, if, as they say, is accurate, that one of their soldiers fired the fatal bullet. They say that the Israeli army say that there was militant gunfire all around, and that's why they fired, and she was mistakenly hit, in their view. But the evidence, the video footage from the time, doesn't back up that account. It suggests that the journalists were there in a very relaxed environment, preparing to work, when those fatal shots were fired, and they were sustained over a period of time and appeared to be deliberately targeting at least one of the bystanders there.
And just remind us of the circumstances and what Shireen Abu Aqla was there reporting on at the time when all of this happened.
Well, this is in Jenin refugee camp. It's in the north of the occupied West Bank. The context was that there had been a series of attacks by Palestinians and Arab Israelis on the streets of Israel earlier this year that had killed 18 Israelis. Some of the perpetrators came from Jenin, and the Israelis had stepped up what was already a series of near daily raids that were happening in the occupied West Bank, search and arrest raids, and also punitive home demolitions that the Israeli army carries out in these circumstances. So they'd gone into Jenin refugee camp. That had triggered gunfire from Palestinian militants at the army. Shireen Abu Aqla had arrived there just after dawn to report for the Al Jazeera network. She was wearing a blue press flak jacket, clearly marked. She was wearing a helmet. And as I say, the group of journalists had been there along with some bystanders when she was shot and killed with a single shot to the head. And after that, it triggered these bitter recriminations about this series of events, because all of the eyewitnesses there that had spoken to the press, as well as a Palestinian probe, said that this had clearly come from the Israeli army. That was backed by multiple media investigations into the evidence, also by the United Nations and a US review that found it likely the Israelis were behind that. But the accusation has been from the family that the Israeli army just simply won't take full and proper responsibility for it, and that's why they want a criminal investigation.
OK, Tom, thank you for the moment. Tom Bateman, our Middle East correspondent there for us in Jerusalem.